Hello, everyone, and welcome to Pitching Your Content to Sponsors and Buyers, which is the third of our masterclasses for Content Marketplace, which is coming up in only about a month. It's really exciting. So looking forward to diving into this content with you today and then seeing you at our marketplace in early October. So let's dive right in, shall we? Certainly what you're going to need today is something to write on and with. So you could potentially use your laptop. However, it's probably advisable that you have something else because your laptop is largely going to be taken for this webinar. Definitely bring a content concept that you are really excited about. It might be something that you have already been producing, or it might be something that you're thinking about doing, still refining the idea, or maybe trying to get up the courage to actually launch it and get it going. But be thinking about that one idea. And then we're going to talk about a lot of things related to how you might pitch that idea. So be willing to question some of the things that you've been thinking about, and we're going to dive in. All right, so by now, I think everyone here knows what Content Marketplace is. It is going to be a very cool two-day event, October 3rd and 4th in Miami at the Idea Center. And we're going to be bringing together lots of you talented content creators, certainly with then some speakers who are maybe further along in their content entrepreneur journey, as well as some buyers, some agents, sponsors, people who are able to talk to you about new technical equipment, that kind of thing. And so we're going to have 2 days of great talks. So excited about the lineup. You're starting to see a lot of the speakers on the webpage, so you can always go over to cont-ent.org, check that out. And we'll be having more of those basically every week. You're going to start to see more of the people who are going to show up. But we've got some really great people. Super excited to announce that Bernie Sue is going to be there. He actually just won Twitch's first Emmy for the content that he is making on their service. It's really exciting. But the point of Content Marketplace is to take those of us who love making content, who we have a story to tell, we have things that we want to put out in the world, and turn us into not just content creators, but content entrepreneurs. And that's what content stands for, content entrepreneurs. Very clever. So what content entrepreneurs do, though, is actually take their content and make a viable business out of it. Maybe it's something that can support everything you do in life. Maybe it's a nice side business with some extra income coming in, but your ideas matter, and there are ways to turn that into something that more people will see and that potentially people will pay you for. So here is the update. We've already done 2 of the master classes. Those of you who have bought the master pass, you have ability to see those anytime you want with the password from the links on the site. Today we have the live webinar, but you're also going to be able to download that in the future as well. And then September, finding new outlets for your brand is just the Saturday before Content Marketplace. We're going to be doing that one both live at the Idea Center, again, as well as live streamed. If you're not able to make it either physically there, you can see it live, or we'll of course then be putting it up as a recording on the site so that you're able to download it later. And then just several days after that is Content Marketplace. So lots of exciting stuff happening soon. Okay, so keep in mind that there is going to be at Content Marketplace on the first day, we are going to have a pitch session. So today we're talking about how to pitch your content. You have an opportunity on the first day to pitch your idea to the sponsors and professionals and buyers who are going to be there. There's going to be a panel, and as part of an open room session, people are going to be able to pitch ideas. It's going to be short pitches, use a lot of the things that we talked about today, but it's a really excellent opportunity to get your ideas and your pitch style in front of people and get some good feedback in a very low pressure, fun, supportive setting. So I would encourage everyone to plan to sign up for that. They're going to be able to sign up at the opening breakfast the first morning, and we'll be able to then get a schedule together. You'll be notified, and you'll be able to come back that afternoon and pitch your idea in front of people and get some great feedback. So really exciting content add to our content marketplace. Okay, I think we are ready now to dive into pitching your content. Such a huge part of the overall creative needs of the process of a content entrepreneur. Coming up with your idea and getting it produced is one part of it, but being a content entrepreneur means you also know how to sell it. And you might be selling it to a buyer or someone who might be able to put it, say, on their multi-channel network online, or maybe it's a sponsor who wants to pay you money to mention their products or to put their logo on your content. Or perhaps you're selling to your fans, your viewers, your readers. Those people also often need to be pitched to, and we'll be talking about that as well. But the art of the pitch is a very creative process in and of itself, and it's something that I know a lot of people feel uncomfortable with as they're getting started. Some people are natural pitchers. They can talk to folks all the time. They like to sell things. They like to have conversations about the things they're excited about. And other people start to feel a little uncomfortable. And we're going to talk about ways to potentially get you past that and getting you into what do you really need to know, because if you understand what buyers are looking for, how to come into a pitch really informed, you're going to, any of those butterflies that we all naturally have are going to start to go away. So we're going to talk about all of that today. All right. So here we go. Pitching your content. Oops, sorry, we're separating this out into rules today. So rule number 1 is great content is absolutely the best sales tool. So if you are confident in the content that you're creating, if you love your blog and you know that other people love your blog, it is way easier to talk to other people about it because you both have the support of knowing what the amount of numbers of people who are already viewing your content is. But you also understand very deeply what your content is about, and you have that excitement for it. So the content that you are pitching matters so much. All right, let's take this back. I think you're going to notice today that there's absolutely a logic and a reason to why we put the various master classes together in the order. And one of them is they just build on each other. So we're going to go back for a moment and think about, oh, what is your hit factor? The very first one we talked about. Things there, remember, you need to keep your project unique. That is part of having that great content that becomes really easy to pitch. So if you feel like it needs to be more unique, all those exercises and things we talked about in that first masterclass, keep working on your content until your talent, the concept, the execution, they all feel like they're working together and that there's something about it that really stands out, because that's going to be the core of your pitch. All right, you want to make sure that the project development always focuses on what that thing is that's unique. And we're going to talk a little bit more today about partnerships that might be useful for you to have, both for creating content, but also potentially for pitching content. And remember, you have a unique voice. Okay, there are things that only you can talk about. And so that's the stuff that you always want to make sure you're going back to. I want to really emphasize this again. If you are putting yourself into your content is going to sing and is going to connect with other people so much more than if you're trying to chase a trend or you're putting out something that you think someone else will like, but you're only moderately passionate about. You want to be creating content, especially in a space that is online, that focuses on things like social media, that has recurring connection with your fans. You need to focus on something that means something to you. Okay, so here we go. Oops. Reminder, you are unique. And for those of you who have not yet checked out the number one secret to a great show pitch on the site. It is totally free to download. I think most of you at this point have probably gone and downloaded it. It is, you just sign up with your email and we email this to you. It's a couple page worksheets of really working through how to figure out what is unique about you and the way you pitch your project. So this is a really great tool that before you dive into more of these exercises and to help you get prepared to pitch, I would strongly recommend that everybody go through and work through this worksheet. Okay, as we then move on to rule number 2, which is a nice segue from that last piece. The pitch is an opportunity to sell you. Most people go in thinking that they are absolutely selling their idea, and honestly, yes, that's part of it. What you have to sell is such a huge part of it because you want people to buy it. You want people to support your idea. You want them to either give you money for it from a sponsorship or maybe patronage side, or you'd like them to take your project and put it on, say, their network if they have a bunch of channels like a Spotify or other things that get into those premiere places. YouTube certainly has premiere spots to be able to work with. If you ever get the chance to talk with people like that and get the chance to move it into the premiere locations, that's a great chance for you to be able to discuss. Keep in mind, a lot of that is often done just by metrics. You can be on those multi-channel networks in many cases just by signing up and doing it. What will often get them to approach you is when your numbers get to a certain level. But sometimes you also get the chance to talk to these people and discuss your plans for things, and they may be giving you a chance. And certainly on some of the smaller buyers, you might have the chance to be able to get in there, get in the ground, get some of their support for production and other things. And you may have the chance at Content Marketplace to have discussions with some of these people. All right, so, but remember, it's not just about your project. It is about selling you. Well, why is that? Okay, whoops. Because oftentimes those buyers don't want exactly what it is that you're selling. And it's not because what you're selling is bad. It's not because it's a bad concept. It may just not fit with what they're looking for right now. But if they're impressed with you, if they see that what you are working on is interesting and of high quality, and even though it's not right for them, they're going to see you as a good, reliable creator. Also, if you present yourself professionally, if you know how to talk about your own audience, and it's clear that you're taking this seriously as a business, they're going to be impressed with you and potentially come back to you saying, hey, yeah, that last idea didn't work, but now we've got something else. We'd love to get your thoughts on this. Do you have future content that you think could work for us in this area? Those long-term partnerships are what really matter. And it also matters that your content that you're making right now might fit for them, but maybe a year or two down the road, you actually have an idea that you think back and go, oh, you know what? And those people were looking for something very similar to this. Now you can reach out to them if you've impressed them and always get that second meeting. This is something that you don't just go in and say, I've got one pitch, one opportunity, and if they don't like it, we're moving on. It's about building the relationships. It's about getting to know them, and it's about them getting to know you. Never, ever forget that. So we're moving on to rule number 3. It is, oh goodness, sorry, I went backwards. Know your audience. Hey, yeah, we talked a lot about this in the second webinar, right? So there was that idea of, hey, who is it that you're really aiming for? And we talked some reminder about, okay, the audience that your content is for is not everybody. You don't want it to be everybody. You're looking for those people who are passionate about that kind of thing that you are talking about. So you should always, though, be able to answer not just that question, who your project is for, but also the audience question about your buyer. Who is your buyer and what is your buyer looking for? The thing is that sometimes these two don't add up. Sometimes they do, and that's awesome. And sometimes you just don't know. Here is the thing that you want to keep in mind, especially if you're at a place like Content Marketplace, where you might run into a buyer or a sponsor or someone who is a distributor for content, or maybe could be a content creation partner with you down the road. And you might not know what it is they're interested in, what it is that they're looking to sponsor or buy. That's okay. So, but the important thing is then take the time in that meeting chance moment that you have with them when you run into them at the coffee line to get to know them. Don't instantly just start selling your project. Ask them what it is that they're interested in putting on their service. Ask them what it is that they're interested in sponsoring. Ask them if they're a co-creator, what kind of things get them excited. If you've been impressed with some of the things you've seen from them and you might want to partner, really understand what makes them tick. Ask those questions. And then if you feel like there's a tight connection, maybe there's still a little time to then talk about what you're working on. Or you can, at the very least, get their card, get their contact information, and follow up with them later with the, hey, it was so nice to meet you. I know that you're very interested in X topic. I'm interested in that too, and I have a project that I think we could talk about. And I think that those kind of things show that you're not just interested in getting your ideas out there, you're interested in finding the right partnerships, and they are as well. So if you ever find yourself in a chance meeting opportunity, take the meeting time to be able to discuss those kind of things with them. Learn about them. Don't give them just instantly lots of information about you. And of course, if you have time to plan for your pitch, definitely get to know them. Look online, look at their current catalog of programs that they put up. Look at the blogs that they sponsor. All the things that is very accessible to you as just a human with access to the internet or a phone or all of these other wonderful capabilities that we're putting our own content on. Go research them, understand it. See if there are articles that have been written about them. Just do a little bit of research and Googling and understand, so that when you actually do have that time to sit down, you already know what they're looking for. Because if you can make sure that that's clear in the pitch, they're going to be much more excited about you. Okay, but oftentimes, as I've said, the answers to those two questions don't line up. And if that's the case, if what you have to sell and what they're looking for right now don't line up, remember, that's going to be a recurring theme today, go back to rule number 2. Still take the meeting, still have the discussion, because it's not just about the idea, it's about selling you. All right. So, who is your content audience? Who is your pitch audience? Make sure you get those two things really in line. Okay, so 1, the people that you're selling to, that's very important to your buyers. The people that you're making content for is very important to the people you might be selling your product to, or that might be in some ways giving you money to make your dreams come true, right? Because if their audience and your audience are the same or have a large overlap in the Venn diagram, then you're going to be in a pretty good place as a starting point to be able to sell your idea. Okay, so how do you identify buyers who are a likely fit? Okay, certainly you want to do that research that we talked about. Research the people and the companies that you're going to have the chance to talk to. Make sure that it's targeting, so that in this business, you've got to be able to hustle. There's not going to be every week or two a chance to just run into people who put this stuff on the air. And long after Content Marketplace, you're going to have to keep this going. So get online, be thinking about, okay, I make a blog about my dog. Great. Okay, who else is interested in that? Okay, well, there are lots of sponsors in the dog food, dog care, maybe it's something local. There's a dog walker who wants more exposure, and you've got a lot of dog parent families in your area. Great. Reach out to them. Like, be looking at ways to make that work. You're going to have to do a little bit of hustle, but the internet makes that so possible to do. If you understand your audience, then you can look for sponsors, for instance, who are looking at that same audience, maybe geographically, maybe age-wise, maybe interest-wise, all of those kind of things, and then be able to start reaching out to them to say, hey, I've had a lot of success creating content for the audience that you're interested in. I'd love to talk to you about potentially partnering up. That kind of thing that shows that you've really done your research is a really nice segue to those things that may otherwise feel a bit like cold calling. But they're not when you've done your research and you know that they're very aligned with what it is that you're interested in. Okay, most buyers, reminder, will not be interested in buying or sponsoring your product. So that's okay. Again, if you just get the chance to chat with them, or you send them an email of introduction or some other thing like that, just always remember this is a chance, again, to sell you. And so you want to make sure that you're taking the time to thank them for their time. If they shut you down, that's okay. You move on, let it roll off. There are lots of other people out there. And to that point, keep in mind that not every buyer, sponsor, etc., is right for your needs. It can be really hard early on in sort of this creative entrepreneurship venture to actually turn down someone who's interested in you. But you really want to think about whether their goals, their audience, etc., align with what you want your content to be. So keep that in mind. If it feels like it's asking you to go in a direction that you're no longer passionate about, you really want to think about that, because what's going to make your content great, what's going to make you and your brand better, is to stick with that stuff that you know you can produce well because it comes from in here. If they suggest notes and changes, that's awesome. But at the same time, what you want to do is make sure it doesn't get too far away, that you find that place to incorporate the things that they're excited about into the things that you are excited about, rather than just giving up on your idea and going with theirs. If that offer presents itself and you start to feel like, oh, I'm not sure that that's the kind of content I'm that excited to make, really think about that before agreeing to get into an arrangement with a buyer, a sponsor, etc. Because again, not every buyer is right for your needs. Make sure to keep in mind what your vision is, what your brand, what you want that to be. Okay, and here are some other things to really think about. Goodness. You are always going to be pitching to your fans through your content, through your social media, all of these other things. But over the last decade, there's become this really great opportunity to pitch directly to your fans for actual sponsorship and payment and a way to make income. I actually know a decent amount of artist friends who use Patreon, for example, to bring in a significant amount of income, some up to as much as what they need to live on. Some maybe it's $300 to $500 a month. Some it might be $3,000 to $5,000 a month from things like Patreon, where their content reaches their fans enough that they can go directly to their fans and say, hey, could you pitch in $2 a month, $5 a month for this continued content? It becomes an almost one-on-one subscription service. That's a really interesting way to go. Or some people Kickstarter their projects. Maybe you want to make a short film, or maybe you want to make a season of a web series, and you need some money to actually make that come together. You need to get people excited about that so that they're giving you funds. All of these are pitch opportunities. And so these are just pitching directly to your fans and your supporters and your mom and all those other people. So you want to follow a lot of the same rules of pitching, but it starts making sure with the fact that you know your audience. You understand who this buyer is. This is a fan buyer, and that's different than a buyer who might work at Tastemade or Spotify or any of those kind of broader networks of online content that publish that for people. This is a direct to your fan kind of thing, and you want to pitch it a little differently because you know who your audience is. All right. So rule number 4 is to make sure, this might sound obvious, but a lot of people don't do it, cover the info that a buyer really needs to hear. Keeping in mind, who is that buyer? Is it individual fans? Is it sponsors? Is it the people who might help you publish it and get more eyeballs on it by putting it on their service? Okay, they all have slightly different things they need to hear, but it's about that research that you did on them before. The pitching do's and don'ts of this, though, is as you're starting, start with that no more than 2 minutes. Ideally, it's closer to even 1, but 1 to 2 minute pitch to them. This is the stuff that they need to hear, and this is the part that you'll always have time to make sure you get to. The elevator pitch, as we talk about it, because if you happen to step into the elevator with a person who can actually be a good financing other type of partner for you in the future, you want to take advantage of that elevator ride, and it might only be a minute long. Okay, so start there, cover the concept and the tone, okay, and cover who you are and why you came to this idea, okay, because that really should be embedded into the concept. Again, this is very personal content that we're talking about. Definitely for this, you want to avoid lots of details. You just don't have time, so don't go there. And the tone of your pitch, of your 2 minute pitch, really should mirror the tone of the content that you're producing. Okay, with that, you may also at this point, should you have the right implements around, be able to show them a short clip of your content. It might be audio clip if you're doing a podcast. It might be kind of a quick either cut together best of reel from your vidcast or streams, your short film, any of that sort of thing. Or it might just be a 30 to 60 second clip that came directly from that. So it might be pieced together as an almost trailer, or it might just be one clip, but it should be strong. It should represent your best content, and it should represent you and what you're capable of doing. And at this point, once you've done that minute to 2 minutes, maybe even before, allow your buyer to respond and ask questions. I said maybe even before because one thing that tends to make people who don't have a lot of pitching experience nervous is that the person that they are pitching to or talking to stops them and asks questions. They tend to think of this as maybe either rude or a bad sign because they're not getting to the right thing. And I will tell you it is exactly the opposite. If they are interested enough and care enough to ask you questions, this means nothing but good things. They're excited enough. They're trying to figure out, oh, I see something here. So let me get to the points that I know I really need to know to be able to make a decision about this. So let them stop, let them ask questions. It is not a failure on your part. It is them getting to the core of what they really need to know. Here's the other thing. A pitch is not about you, and it's not about the person that you're pitching to, and it's not about the idea. It really is about the conversation and the connection there. So the more that you allow this to be a back and forth, the better. Think of it like having a conversation about your project and about why you're excited about it, not about you telling someone why you're excited about it. That is really the core of a person who is good at pitching, is they don't make it about them. They don't get worried about saying every word in the right order because, to be honest, that person they're talking to doesn't know what words you were going to say anyway. It is about knowing your content well enough that you can have a conversation about it. Sure, you want to practice the high points. You want to know what your 2 minute pitch is. But you really want to make sure that you know the content so well that if someone stops, asks you a question, you can just talk about it. Again, it's a conversation. Okay. Now we're going to take a pause. And everybody is going to spend a little time working on their 2 minute pitch. This is not you writing it all out because we're only going to pause for about 2 minutes. That's not enough time. You're going to want to take this home, refine it, practice it in front of people, all that sort of thing. But right now, write down, take a moment to write down some of the things that you know you really want to cover. Okay. what is the concept? How do you just wrap that up pretty quickly? If it's supposed to have humor in it, how do you wrap it up in a funny way? What's the tone about? Make sure that's coming through in the pitch more than you saying, this is really funny, but giving them the driest pitch ever. That's not going to work. And talk about maybe the anecdote or story of why it's right for you to be pitching this and why you are capable of making this happen. Think about all of that. And I'm going to give you a couple minutes to just write some of that stuff down, and then we'll pick this back up again. So take your time and do that now. Okay, there's about maybe 20 to 30 seconds left. So go ahead and just finish jotting down some of those final ideas. All right, so what is important though is this is just a start. You want to get that idea of what your opening pitch is going to be. It's going to take a little bit of time to craft it. So go home, work on this, think about it, practice it, run it by your partner, your best friends, anybody that wants to listen to this and give you some feedback. And listen back to them about what they get excited about, like what elements were the most compelling for them or made them actually want to watch your content, read through your blog, that sort of thing, so that you understand how to move this forward. Okay, and keep in mind this 2-minute piece, say you're putting it on a Kickstarter or a Patreon. Remember, that's aimed at something very different than pitching to a more corporate buyer, for instance. And so you might have several of these 2-minute starts. And if you're doing it on a Patreon or Kickstarter, Indiegogo, those kind of things, you probably also want to make sure you're including a video. It might be you talking. It might be a portion of your content, might be some audio clips from your podcast, maybe with some footage of you recording it in whatever you consider your studio, might be your dining room table, who knows, but that let the personality be there, but make sure that with those it comes out. People really like seeing the videos as compared to, or samples of the work on things like Kickstarter, as compared to reading lots of info about it, because they want to know what they're investing in. And again, getting that 1-minute clip ready for any buyer is also just a really good idea. So that is another part that goes along with this. Okay. Reminder, I know I've said this before, but it's important to know that this isn't about the worth of your project or about you. You're going to get rejected in this, and it's just part of this process. You have to be okay with that and know it's not personal. That's not just something I'm saying to try and make you feel better about yourself. It's not always about the fact that they didn't think the project was good. Many times they'll think it was good and it just didn't fit for them. That there's so much competition out there right now too, and there is a lot of kind of niche markets that start to happen that you could just be slightly out of that for them. And that's okay. You're getting practice and you're getting a chance to build your network and sell yourself. Okay, so it is about building relationships, promoting yourself and your brand, and receiving feedback. Always take the feedback that they're giving you as a gift. It is something that you can internalize. You can think about, okay, yes, I absolutely agreed with that. I should make some shifts. You could also go, I get where they maybe wanted me to go with this project, but that's not a place that I'm as interested to go with this project. So I'm going to stay the course. Or they gave me 3 ideas. One of them was actually pretty interesting. I'll take that one, but I won't take the other ones as much because they don't seem to apply with my vision. So keep that in mind, but always take feedback as a positive because they're giving their time to you to help you make your content better. All right, we're moving on to rule number 5. Have the necessary supporting materials. Okay, this is really important because a lot of times, especially when you come to an event like Content Marketplace, you're going to be talking to creative partners, potential buyers are going to be there, potential agents are going to be there, that kind of thing. You want to make sure that you're prepared to have those discussions. So definitely, when you are there, come prepared with ideally a 1 sheet, what we call a 1 sheet in the business, but it's just 1 piece of paper. It might be front and back that covers all the key points about your project. Also, hopefully it's not just a wall of words. Put in visuals, put in screen grabs from things. Again, if it's a podcast, obviously you can't put that on a piece of paper, but you might put a shot of you at your recording station doing something. Or if you've been interviewing a guest who's of interest lately, showing that rapport in a picture and putting that on there is always helpful. But it should cover who your audience is, what the concept is, all of those things that you'd probably put in your 2-minute pitch, conveyed with nice personality, and it should have all your contact info on it. So how do they reach you for follow-up with emails and phone numbers, that sort of thing. Also, how can they see more of your content? So if your blog is up on pages, make sure your URL is there. If there are certain ones that you'd like to point people to as examples, maybe those are the ones that you highlight. But remember, this is not a clickable form. This is a sheet of paper. So ideally, it is just the title of your blog. If you email them, that's when you can start to pointing them directly at individual entries that you think are particularly exciting or useful for their needs. Keep in mind also, say you're on a subscription-based service. Say you've done, whether it be a podcast, vidcast, etc., and people generally have to be subscribing to that. At that point, you want to make sure that you can also get the information of any passwords they might need to know. That might be that you have work in progress, for instance, on your website, and you've put your content up sort of behind your own mini firewall, but you will give passwords out to people who you want to see your work in progress content. Make sure that that's on there. Also, if there is, like I said, a subscription service, how can they get to some portion of that content? So all of your Twitch streams might be up someplace where, okay, it's behind something. Well, that would be on Twitch, but they may or may not be able to get to your archived versions. Is there a place where you've kept your sort of best of collection, or that trailer that we were talking about earlier, somewhere on your website where they can reach it? Just make sure that your content is accessible and that all this information is on this 1 sheet. Also, you may want to just carry around a flash drive with some of the stuff. But keep in mind, beyond all that, people may not want to take any of the physical goods, because this is not where, you're probably not handing it to them where they generally review content. If you have a meeting in their office, great. Leaving some of those things behind tends to be much more kind of allowed and appreciated. Whereas if you're at a conference, having them and giving them that option is great, but a lot of them won't want to fly home with all of it. It'll get lost before they get back to their actual business desk. So at that point, get their card. It's a great chance to get all their contact information for future things as well, but get it and then follow up with a very nice professional email about how nice it was to meet them, to hear about what they're looking for, and you think that you have something that will meet their needs. Give whatever links and quick pitch that you want to in that email. That's a great way to get it started. Or to say, I'd love to set up further time to talk with you. Here is a link to some of the work, and then you can move on from there. Okay, from this, oh, sorry, went backwards again. We're getting close to the end of this. There are just 2 more rules, and the next one is really important. You want to make sure that when you are pitching, you play to your strengths. Again, it's a chance to sell you, and it's a chance to sell, of course, your project. What are the strengths, both you as a creator, as a pitcher, and as what are the strengths of the content that you've put your heart and soul into? So think about this. Focus on the elements of your project that are the strongest or most unique. Hey, it goes back to that unicorn stuff we were talking about before. What sets your stuff apart? It really is going to be that thing that comes from you. But make sure that's still the focus of your pitch. Don't just throw that out the window and throw the heart and soul out just to talk about the concept in a very sterile way. You want to talk about the emotion. You want to talk about why you're making this. Okay, certainly get feedback on the strengths and weaknesses from people. We talked about that with the 2-minute pitch. This can even be the longer pitch. You do want to be prepared if that first 1 to 2 minute pitch goes well and they start asking questions. Maybe you can get deeper into talking about individual episode or release ideas and what you have done with them or want to do with ones in the future. You can talk about ways that you want to be going after a slightly broader audience after the first 6 months, and here is your plan. All of those get into the business plan of discussions you might be having with some of these buyers. Make sure to practice those and get feedback from people about what sounded interesting and what did not. Okay. Definitely use your research on those companies to tailor your pitch. The way you pitch to one potential buyer is absolutely not identical to the way you pitch to another. They may be similar, but you want to highlight their needs. You want to definitely make sure that they know that you know what's important to them, that you've been either listening to what they've been saying or that you've done your research in advance. Because the more you can call out things that are very specific to their needs in the pitch, the stronger your pitch is going to be. And that's a place that you have the ability to do the research and customize and cater your pitch. And that will be a real strength of your pitch and something you can go into with a lot of confidence. Okay. Final rule. Yes, we are here. Ask for help when you need it. So many people get to a place when they are making their content because it is something they've taken to heart. Oh yeah, this is something that's so sort of personal to me that they think they need to do everything. And I think it's really, really important to think about, A, when you're creating your project, can you do it all? Because say you're making a blog and the technology is fairly low barrier to entry, you're going to do it once a week and it's about a topic you know really well. Okay, maybe that one is something that feels like, yeah, this is something I can do as one single person putting this out there. But maybe you also want to enlist the help of some guest writers or maybe some people who might edit your work now and then. That could be really useful there too. Even with something that technologically is more simple, you might still want to have some partners there. Definitely, as you're starting to get into something where you're making continual, vidcasts, certainly if you're getting into things like short series on the web or a short film that you might be making, those practically need people like camera operators, editors, sound and music people who've got expertise. You might be pretty good at most of them, but Finding other people who share your passion about this idea and pulling them in is useful. The other thing that it's useful to have that for is the pitch. Because if you've got pitching partners who can help you pitch, it does a couple things. One, it takes some of the burden off of you on the pitch, which is nice. But what it also does is presents a team to potential partners down the road. And that gives them confidence that there are multiple people working on this. And therefore, it's more likely to keep up high quality at a regular cadence interval. So that's an important thing to be thinking about as you are looking to pitch to people is, do you need a partner for that pitch and to get them excited about the fact that you absolutely can continue this moving forward. Okay, so the collaboration partnerships can make it better. Establishing a network of your advisors is so useful, whether it be editors, whether it be people who can just give you some feedback now and then that you believe in, saying, oh yeah, your content, I find it most interesting when you focus on these types of things. Now that I've heard your 5 episodes of your podcast, I think the best ones are about when you focus on X part of it. You are a great interviewer, you should bring more guests in. Those kind of that kind of feedback, I think, is really useful, and you want to make sure you've got a trusted group of people who can work on that. Trusted means they're chosen largely for how much you believe in their expertise. Do they have success and expertise in areas? Do you know that they're going to tell you something honestly? Your dad might not always give you the most honest feedback because he loves you dearly and doesn't want to hurt your feelings. Okay, do you have a best friend, though, who is really blunt and will say good things, but also will say the things that need to be improved? Find those people. And then one last thing is perhaps you might actually be thinking about getting an agent or manager, and that's a different type of pitching partner. Agents can be so useful in setting up more of those pitching opportunities. They will generally have a network that is way larger than you do in terms of who might be giving you money to come, say, speak at their conference or event, who might be giving you money as a sponsor, who might be actually helping to fund or produce part of it as a production partner, who might be able to put it on their service and get you more eyeballs. All of those are people that agents and managers know really well, and they can introduce you to those meetings. In exchange for that, should you actually get money out of that, they will take a percentage. Usually it's around 10% of the income that they helped bring in for you. It is well worth it if you find the right agent or manager. But keep in mind, it's not that agents, managers, other kind of representatives are just eager to sign up everybody. You have to pitch to them too. You want to be on their radar. You want them working for you. But remember, they don't get paid if you don't get paid. So they want to know that you bring something that they can sell, or that when they hook you up with a potential buyer, sponsor, etc., that you are very likely to be able to close that. So you are going to have to pitch to agents and managers and other kind of representatives to be able to get them on board to help you. And so that's a different type of pitch. You want to show that you are capable of pitching. You want to show that you've got good ideas, maybe not even just this one idea, but you've got others. Maybe they're setting you up with live event things that are sponsored by companies that want you and your brand at this event. They need to know that you're capable of going and speaking, meeting with strangers, talking about the things you do, that you are going to be an appropriate ambassador for whatever brand might be inviting you to that event. All of those things are what you need to encapsulate when you get the chance to meet agents, managers, etc., to hopefully get them on your side. Okay. All right. We're now at the ends of the 7 rules of pitching your projects to sponsors and buyers, and fans, don't forget. Here they are. I'm going to leave them up for a moment, but I'm also going to open things up. Are there any questions that people have? And I see one question that is, okay, for people who are in South Florida, is it realistic to get an agent or buyer? And the truth is, it's a really good question. I think a lot of people, especially because you tend to think of agents and managers and things as being much more, say, Hollywood, you tend to think of it in LA or New York. And if you're not there, who's going to care? The wonderful thing about the sort of digital revolution that we are in right now is that creators are everywhere, and the types of agents, managers, people who kind of link up talent with event opportunities, that sort of thing, they know that they need to be scouring the country looking for that kind of thing. So it may be a little harder because those people might still be based in LA, though it's also, that's changing too, because there's more opportunity for them to be in more places. So it might be harder to have that face-to-face meeting, but it is still very viable. They're not going to be disappointed that you don't live in Los Angeles. In fact, it actually then opens up their ability to place people with more sponsors, because they may have someone, say, who's hosting an event in Georgia, and it is a heck of a lot easier for a person in Florida to be able to get there than someone in LA. And so they like having a more national network. So actually, yeah, it can be quite feasible. The harder part will be getting in touch with those people. And then that goes back to do your research. What agents, managers, representatives of various kinds seem to be focusing on the things that you do, and how can you reach out to them? And sometimes agencies, management agencies as well, go on their website, they will talk about submissions. Sometimes they will say they take no cold submissions, so you have to find other ways to meet these people or to reach them. But a lot of them do. A lot of them are interested in finding out about new talent, particularly in the online space, because right now we're still in a space, in a kind of frame of this as an industry that's still a little Wild West. It's starting to get, and I would say 3 years from now, this is going to be a much more kind of rigorously defined process of how you do it. Right now, you're still able to get out there and just have open conversations with people. So take advantage of this window and do it. All right, I don't see any further questions. So with that, thank you so much for joining. It's been great. I look forward to seeing you at the next masterclass at the Idea Center at the end of September. And then, of course, at Content Marketplace on October 3rd and 4th. Thank you again so much for being part of this. And, I'll see you in the near future. Bye.